Ethan Carter was a billionaire, known for his ruthless business acumen. The CEO of Carter Enterprises, he had built a financial empire from the ground up. But his true treasure in life was his 10-year-old son, Oliver. Oliver had been diagnosed with cerebral palsy at birth, a condition that limited his mobility and required constant care. Despite his wealth, Ethan struggled to find someone who treated Oliver with genuine kindness rather than obligation. One chilly autumn afternoon, Ethan and Oliver stopped at a small, family-owned diner on the outskirts of the city. It wasn't a place Ethan would usually visit, but Oliver had insisted on going somewhere cozy. The waitress with a heart of gold. At the diner, they were greeted by a young waitress named Sophie Lane. Sophie was in her mid-20s, with warm brown eyes and a radiant smile that made the dimly lit diner feel a little brighter. She was working double shifts to support her mother, who had recently been diagnosed with cancer. Money was tight, but Sophie never let hardship dampen her kindness. When she approached their table, she noticed Oliver struggling with his fork. His hands trembled as he tried to pick up a piece of pancake, only for it to fall back onto the plate. Ethan was engrossed in an urgent business call, unaware of his son's frustration. Sophie hesitated for a moment before gently kneeling beside Oliver. "Would you like some help?" she asked softly. Oliver looked up, his blue eyes wide with gratitude. "Yes, please," he whispered. Sophie carefully cut his pancakes into bite-sized pieces, feeding him with patience and care. She chatted with Oliver, making him laugh, completely oblivious to the fact that Ethan had ended his call and was watching everything unfold. A silent observer. Ethan Carter was used to seeing people treat his son with either pity or discomfort. But Sophie, she treated Oliver like a friend, like he was just another little boy rather than a child with a disability. He watched in silence as Oliver giggled at one of Sophie's jokes. It had been a long time since Ethan had seen his son so happy. When she walked away to attend to another table, Ethan turned to Oliver. "Do you like her?" Oliver grinned. "She's nice, Dad. Really nice." Ethan nodded, deep in thought. He was a man who believed in rewarding kindness, and Sophie had just shown him something money couldn't buy: genuine compassion. A life of struggles. Later that evening, Sophie went home, exhausted. She lived in a small apartment with her mother, Linda, who was lying on the couch, too weak to move. "How was work, sweetheart?" Linda asked weakly. Sophie forced a smile. "It was okay. Just another long shift." She didn't mention the growing pile of medical bills or how she had skipped meals to ensure they had enough for her mother's treatment. She had no time for dreams. Her only priority was survival. The invitation. The next morning, as Sophie was about to start her shift, her manager approached her with wide eyes. "Sophie, there's someone here to see you." Confused, she stepped out to find Ethan Carter waiting near the entrance. "Mr. Carter?" she asked nervously. Ethan gave her a small smile. "I wanted to thank you for how you treated Oliver yesterday. Would you join us for dinner tonight?" Sophie hesitated. "I appreciate the offer, but I have another shift after this." Ethan nodded. "What if I pay you triple what you'd make in that shift?" Her breath caught. That money could cover her mother's medications for a month. "All right," she agreed. An unforgettable evening. That night, Sophie arrived at Ethan's estate, feeling out of place in her thrift store dress. Oliver greeted her excitedly. "Sophie! You came." Throughout dinner, Ethan watched as Sophie and Oliver chatted like old friends. For the first time, he saw his son truly connect with someone outside their family. As the evening ended, Ethan made a decision that would change Sophie's life. A proposal that changes everything. "Sophie," Ethan said seriously. "I know you're struggling. I want to help." She shook her head. "I don't need charity, Mr. Carter." Ethan smiled. "Not charity, a job." I want to hire you as Oliver's personal caregiver. You'd live here, have a generous salary, and all your mother's medical bills would be covered. Tears welled in Sophie's eyes. Why would you do that for me? Because you treated my son with kindness when no one else did, Ethan said simply. A new beginning. Sophie accepted the job, and life changed overnight. She and Oliver grew even closer, and her mother received the best medical care money could buy. Over time, Ethan found himself drawn to Sophie, not just for how she cared for Oliver, but for the warmth she brought into their lives. And one day, as they stood in the garden watching Oliver play, Ethan took her hand. I don't know how I ever lived without you in our lives, he admitted. Sophie smiled, squeezing his hand. Some things are meant to be. Epilogue, love, family, and second chances. Years later, Sophie and Ethan stood together as Oliver, now a young man, gave a speech at their wedding. My dad was a billionaire, Oliver said, smiling. But Sophie made us rich in ways money never could. Tears shimmered in Sophie's eyes as she looked at the boy who had once struggled to eat his pancakes. And at the man who had once been too busy for love. Life had given them all a second chance. And this time, they took it.